Hello and welcome to Ask Richland. I'm Michael Charbonneau, and Ask Richland is an live interactive program where you, the viewer, get to interact with us about specific questions about your city government. Each show we try to pick a topic of discussion and focus on that and field your questions. And tonight we're going to talk about Richland Energy Services, your Richland Electric Company. So joining me tonight to take your questions about Richland Energy Services is Energy Services Director Clint Whitney. Welcome. And Sandy Edgman, who is the Business Services Manager for the Richland Utility. So here's how it works. All you have to do is, if you're watching us on Facebook, go right to the comments section and ask us your question. Please keep it short and brief. We want to be able to answer your question and be able to answer everybody else's question that comes up. Also, if you have any other questions that you want to ask that don't pertain to this, the easiest thing to do is go ahead and do Ask Richland at ci.richland.wa.us, and we will be more than happy to answer that question for you offline. So let's begin on Ask Richland. So Clint, easy question to start off. Explain to us exactly what is Richland Energy Services.
Thank you, Mike. Energy Services is the electric municipal portion of the city's electric department, and we provide electric service to residential, commercial, industrial customers. And we are local control, and what we like to say is our local community utility.
So what this means, though, is we're a city-owned utility, and we're the only city-owned utility.
That's right.
In our area. So how is that different from the PUDs or the other kind of co-ops?
Yeah. Well, like the PUDs and the co-ops, the city is electric utility is a not-for-profit entity, and whereas we are managed by and governed by our city council versus commissioners or PUD commissioners at the others.
So what is a real advantage to the citizens of Richland that we are a citizen-owned utility?
It's local control is one. We serve only City of Richland residents. We don't, money stays here. It does not go to shareholders. And it's when I say local control, you can contact the city directly. It's not an 800 number to get to us. You can come down to the city hall and talk with us in person.
And because it's a citizen-owned utility, we, to use the phrase, we have skin in the game in the sense that we want to try to keep rates as low as they can possibly be.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, let's get on to that subject of rates. Council has approved a rate increase for this year that's going to go into effect June 1st. Tell me a little bit about that and what citizens can expect.
So the rate increase is 8%, and that's it's not easy for us to recommend a rate increase. We try to do everything possible to mitigate increases. And however, we purchase all of our power from Bonneville Power Administration, and rather than generating our own. And so it is difficult for us to have that control over the Bonneville element. And so the rate increase will be effective with the customer's first bill in June. It'll be approximately, for residential customers, it'll be approximately $8.40 on a typical residential. And this rate increase is only effective on the electric portion of our customer's bill. It's not on the whole bill itself.
Right, that's a very important distinction. It's
Absolutely.
Not the whole bill, which includes water, sewer, garbage, and some of the other utilities. Just the electric portion is where the 8% goes on.
That's correct.
Okay, you touched about Bonneville Power. Explain that a little bit more. So Richland does not generate its own electricity. We have to buy it. Tell me that.
There are some utilities, say Grant PUD, Chelan PUD, that have their own generation assets, hydropower assets. While we're a member of Energy Northwest with access to power, that is sold all through Bonneville, and so we obtain all of our power from Bonneville.
And then Sandy, but we retain our power from Bonneville, but it's not all just dams, hydro dams, is it?
That's correct. 88% of what we have in our wholesale power mix is actually hydroelectric, and then the next 10% is nuclear. So over 98% of our wholesale power is carbon-free and clean.
Well, that's a good distinction.
We're
Again,
very fortunate.
oh,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Very fortunate to have that as a resource available to us, and to have it be, as Sandy said, clean.
And for us in the Pacific Northwest, I mean, the reality is we have fairly inexpensive and abundant energy, don't we?
Well, it has been inexpensive, and I wouldn't say it's abundant. The generation is limited, and you'll hear about low water years. You see it perhaps in irrigation, messaging out there to control and conserve water, and because of low snowpacks. And so that also affects Bonneville. And Bonneville resources, the hydro, is limited, and we have an allocation of that through our what we call Tier 1, and it's our first block of power. And above that, we have to purchase is Tier 2 power, and that may or may not be Bonneville in the future. And so the whole purpose on the Tier 2 is it's because of growth, and it's also because of limitations in Bonneville's resources. So generation, which was once plentiful, is finite.
Okay, and we're going to get to some of the technologies in a little bit, and some of the things we're doing to try to keep the rates low. But I want to go ahead and encourage you, if you do have a question about your Richland Energy Services Department, about your electrical services in general, please go ahead and just put that there on the comment section, or again, you can email us, askrichland@ci.richland.wa.us, and we'll be happy to answer it. So we're talking about different sources of power. Another source that's out there is solar. And we do have, through Bonneville Power, and that way there's options for citizens to put solar panels on their homes and actually get rebates back and get incentives back to that, where their power comes back to us for use. Explain that a little bit, Sandy.
It's actually the citizens or the customers that are putting those systems in themselves, and they do that through private contractors, and then they can use that to generate the electricity that they use in their homes or businesses. Then what happens is that we sell them the electricity, the energy, and then any that they generate in excess of what we sell them goes back into our system, and we credit them for that. That system is called net metering, because you take the net of what we're delivering to them and what we're receiving from them. Now, the viewers may see this graph that's on our system right now. So the blue graph, that's that bell-shaped curve, is actually 1 day of production of a residential customer. And I believe this customer has 5 kW system. Now, this is July 3rd of 2018, so we had full sun, and she got a lot of good production from that. The red line above it is what our system looked like. So all of the power that was coming into our system on that day at the same time. Now, of course, that's in megawatts, which is much larger. The solar was producing in kW, which is 1,000th of that. That's right. The red that you see is actually what when our system peaked. So typically our system in the summer will peak between 4 and 7 p.m. And what I wanted to show with this was the difference between the red line and the blue line is quite large.
Right.
And what I'm trying to demonstrate is that the solar production is dropping off at the time when we really need it.
Right.
So solar doesn't benefit us a great deal, and there's not a lot of it that we have on our system that we're buying back from customers. Now, having said that, we're in the process of looking at exactly how all of the solar combined does benefit us, and we're going to be doing more analysis on that.
Aren't we required to carry some solar power in our portfolio, so to speak?
We will be required to have some renewable portfolio standard, and RPS is what the state is requiring, and there's the trigger on it is based on the number of accounts that we have, and so we're expecting to hit that trigger threshold this year, and then it'll be approximately 4 years from now when we would have to purchase our first 3% of renewable.
So it doesn't have to be solar, it could be wind, it could be whatever other renewables are out there.
That's correct.
That's right.
And one of the important points to recognize on that is not only are we going to be required to purchase some of that renewable, but it'll have to be, because it's not there all the time, it'll have to be shaped and blocked with a base load generation somehow. And we currently can use Bonneville to help us provide that power when the renewable is not.
Yeah. The other thing about this compliance, it's the Energy Independence Act, which was probably better known as I-937. And we are the second utility to actually grow into that 25,000 customer threshold. So most of the utilities had to comply as soon as it went into effect. And then Franklin hit the target, I believe, about 2 years ago, and now we are growing into that. You know, if we can get folks to save energy through energy efficiency, then that lowers our load so that we wouldn't have to go out and purchase as much additional power. And renewable it is more expensive than the standard power mix that we have. Unfortunately, under the law, hydropower is not considered renewable. So in that case, 88% of what we're purchasing, of course, nuclear isn't either. So we are going to be looking at more power purchases.
And that was one of my questions I was going to come to you is, does renewables cost us a little bit more? And you're saying, well, yes, it does. So for trying to have customers save energy and finding ways to keep from hitting that threshold, we're all better off as customers than in the long run. But as Richland grows, it's inevitable that we're going to hit that point then.
Yes, well, energy efficiency is what we call our lowest cost resource. So it's less expensive than building power plants and then going to the market and trying to purchase more power. So if folks will save energy, then we've got some ways to help them with that as well.
So it's really a win-win. It's a win for the customers, and it's a win for the utility, for the city, to where we don't have to purchase as much Tier 2 power or renewables in the future.
Quickly explain that to me, the tier power. What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, I talked about it earlier here. Tier 1 is our allocation of Bonneville's generation system. And so it's approximately 2% of what Bonneville has available for generation. That's what we are allocated of Bonneville's system. And when our power needs or our growth goes beyond that, then we're having to forecast to project what that load would be, and then obtain that power in the market. And that second step of power that has to be purchased outside of Bonneville space system is called Tier 2.
Okay, good. Well, we have a question, so let's go right to it. So the question is, what do I do if I have a tree branch that is getting close? Okay, we hear this a lot, close to a power line in my backyard.
You call us. And we do have a tree program, a regular tree trimming program where the entire city is covered every 5 years. And in this case, if the customer does have a tree that is close to the distribution line, you would call us at 942-7429, our power operations line. You can also go online and on our website, and it's I want to, and then report, and you can issue that online as well.
This is a great time of year to talk about this with spring. Trees are just now starting to bud out. What doesn't look like a branch or a tree close to a power line today may be a branch that's too close tomorrow or a month from now as that tree grows. And it goes beyond just the power lines. We also have meter readers that go around and read electric and water meters. And sometimes bushes, shrubs will grow up and obstruct those meters. And so that makes it difficult for our meter readers to get an accurate read on the meter. And so what I always suggest is this is a perfect time of year to go find out where your water meter is, where your electric meter is, and see if you have ready access to that, to read that meter. And if not, it might be time to do some bush trimming, or bushes trimming, and that's up to our homeowners to take care of. Tree trimming, if the tree is a safety hazard close to the power line, as Sandy mentioned, contact 942-7429, and we'll have someone come out and take a look at it.
And we do want citizens to call on something like that, because if the branch goes down, potential power outage. So
Yes. And it's the real reason is it's a safety hazard.
Right.
So if you have a tree where kids are going to be climbing in it, we certainly don't want them to get into the power lines or have issues like that. We want everybody to be safe.
Good.
The other thing, Mike, I'll tell you about is our tree replacement program. So if the arborist, certified arborist that we work with comes out and determines that the tree is going to continue to grow, it's too tall for the space that it's in, we'll remove that tree and then give you a coupon to go and buy another tree that's more appropriate from one of our local nurseries.
Win-win there. So let's talk a little bit about what you enjoy, which is the overall running of the utility, our growth in our infrastructure, and our renewal and replacement program. What's the importance of all this, that we stay on top of it?
Well, it's like anything. Eventually, equipment wears out and does need to be replaced. And what we want to do is maximize the life of that asset, not replace it too soon, but not wait too long. If we wait too long, then outages increase, and you'll be looking at a graph here of outages since 2006 through 2019. Of course, 19 is only a partial year, so this data will get refreshed over time. And the big takeaway on this is over those number of years, the outages have continued to decrease, and that's because of our investment in our reinvestment in our system through renewal and replacement. So cable underground infrastructure typically lasts about 40 years. Overhead infrastructure lasts about 75 years, 50 to 75 years. And there are many parts within Richland that are at that age. And so it's time to reinvest in those areas. There's a graph showing what we call a heat map, and it's areas that when we graph out our outages, these are areas that have shown clusters of outages. And so it's an opportunity for us to, it tells us that we need to go reinvest in those areas and to decrease those outages. And so in North Richland, in 2019, we'll be doing some cable renewal and replacement. And you might see a contractor of ours out in the neighborhood. And of course, they'll have documentation and to identify who they are. And but we'll be doing quite a bit of directional boring in that North Richland area. It's very minimal disturbance for our customers, and our customers have been very pleased with what's been done in the past few years on our renewal and replacement projects. And it minimizes the disturbance to their backyards.
And that goes underground, right, rather than trenching?
Right.
They can do either one. It depends on whether the area is open to being able to be trenched. And if there's patios, concrete, retaining walls, they'll bore underneath those areas. And so that gives us an opportunity to put in new conduit and rejuvenate for another 40 years. And so that's what we're continuing to drive for, is drive to decrease outages in these problem areas, these hot spots, And you can see that there's an area in the Orchard Hills area, South Richland as well. So these are areas in 19 that we're focusing on.
Yeah. So if you are in one of these neighborhoods, you'll actually receive a letter ahead of time, and it'll tell you what we're doing and when we expect to be in your area, and then we'll notify you the day before or a couple days before. And this helps citizens, because if you've got a pet in the backyard, a dog in the backyard, and we're going to be in the backyard, then you want to have your pet secured and the kids away from the work area.
So how do we determine where to invest with new infrastructure?
Well, that's a great question on that. Some of it's by heat maps and data. We try to use data to help us make these decisions, and analyzing data through data analytics, and some of it's outages, some of it's will overlay age of the infrastructure to help confirm that is not only age, but then the data to identify. If we know of problem equipment or time of a vendor, as an example, if a brand of transformers or infrastructure was known to be bad during that time period, we'll use our asset system to be able to go find those areas and try to be proactive on replacing them ahead of time. Time of year, we're also able to use infrared. And so we'll have everybody's got a camera on their phone, but I haven't seen that small of an infrared camera yet. Someday maybe. But that infrared camera will go around and we'll look for hotspots, truly an area that's overheating on some infrastructure. So that helps us identify problem areas as well.
We'll get back to talking about technology in a second, but we have another question. Hey, we have a would-be employee, it looks like, wanting to be there. So how many linemen do we have on staff, and how can you become a lineman?
I think this is a great question on it. We're very fortunate to have to work for the city, work for our customers, and I like to see that people are interested in becoming future employees as well. So how many linemen do we have? We currently have 18 linemen, and we have one apprentice position, apprentice lineman, and then we currently are in the process of considering applicants for a lineman apprentice.
Oh, there you go.
And so I think that there was 130 applicants for that lineman apprentice.
Might be
position.
131 there, and just
Yeah. So that's exciting to see the interest. And how do you become an employee of the Richland, not just a lineman? Our jobs are posted on the city's website, and you can, I think you can get a notification of when a new job is posted on there. And so occasionally lineman positions do come available. Apprentice positions, this is our second one in probably 20, well, I shouldn't say that, it's been about 10 years before since we've had an apprentice. And so if you're interested in the trade, JATC, you can look that up on the web, and then also the local union has information on how to go through a construction lineman apprentice.
So to put in perspective, how many employees are part of Richland Energy Services?
62.
So we have, you said 18 linemen, and so, but what are some of the other departments as far as kind of sort of what do they do?
Sure. We have an engineering department, and we have an electrician department. We have meter readers. We have meter technicians, and we have radio techs, electronic techs, locators to help us find all this infrastructure when you call the UDIG number. And we have an energy efficiency department, administrative support, and we're very fortunate in the city to be able to effectively share employees. And so while I say a number of employees, you didn't hear HR, you didn't hear payroll or the other IT staff. And so within the city, we're able to utilize those services of the other support departments.
See, that gets back to my first question. What are the advantages, the true advantages? And there you go. Right?
Yeah.
Labor savings and cross-platform savings. Let's talk a little bit more about the technology. You talked a lot about as far as what we're doing for outages and that, but how are we using technology now to just improve services to our customers?
Well, I mentioned the infrared cameras,
Right.
And as one of them, we're trying to use mapping systems. We currently use a system called ESRI, ESRI, and it's a mapping system that helps us identify where our infrastructure's at, and then we also have the data that goes with it. And I call it all the brand names, the model numbers, the serial numbers, all that information is in the mapping system as well. And so we can do filtering, we can do searches, queries, and to physically show it or to map us and tell us where this stuff is at. And we can look for trends. That's part of a lot of these tools are great, but if you don't utilize them, utilize the data from them, then customers or people may not realize the value. So we try to create queries of trends and to be able to help us identify those patterns. Yeah. We try to invest in technology when appropriate, and one of it is advanced metering. And we'll be looking at installing some advanced metering infrastructure to help us identify those outages and be able to track reliability statistics better. And so it's using the data from the technology to help us be able to make decisions. That's key.
One of the exciting things also about the technology, Clint was talking about the reliability and where we need to be renewing our system and replacing equipment. On the energy efficiency side, we'll actually be able to see where we can encourage customers to save the time of day. Demand response is something that's being used in now this part of the country. When I moved here 25 years ago from the East Coast, we were already doing it because we were paying 8 cents per kilowatt hour. At that time, 25 years ago, that was quite significant. But things like enabling the technology to turn your water heater on and off at certain times. You know, if you don't need it during the day, we could have you turn that off or have some equipment installed. And many utilities have been using this for a number of years. So AMI is going to give us the information that we need, provide the information so that we can begin offering some of these programs and a rate structure that customers can opt in on that will give them more control over how they use electricity and when they use it.
So why is saving energy beneficial to the customer?
Well, it lowers their electric bill for one.
Well, yeah.
That's the primary reason. And you know, once you save that energy, it's not just when you put in the new efficient heat pump, but it's that year and the year after, and then the next 8 years after that. So it really does benefit them.
I like to think of it as a win-win. The customers benefit by that multi-year savings on their utility bill, as Sandy was mentioned, but the city also benefits as well when customers utilize energy efficiency programs. And that's because our wholesale power goes down. And our requirement to purchase, as we were talking about, maybe a more expensive power when we don't really want to purchase it. So it's if we can save costs by reducing our wholesale power costs, customers can save in the long run as well.
So the money savings for customers, that's really what gets folks' attention, but there are other benefits as well. If you put in new insulation, it will make the outside noises you're less able to hear those, and so you live in a more quiet environment. Windows, for example, you get a lot of heat transfer through windows, and you can decrease that, so it'll make the area more comfortable, less hot in the summer, and then cold. You feel that heat transfer through the window, so it really does make your home more comfortable.
And we do have programs that can assist citizens to do this.
Absolutely. We have low-interest loans up to 3% for 10 years. And we also have incentives, rebates. And all you need to do is go to our website and learn about that, and choose one of our contractors. We have a list of contractors that go through a certification process. We look at their application and make sure that they do good quality work. And another advantage is that we also inspect 100% of the projects that go in. And so customers are assured that the ducts are sealed the way that they need to be, that the thermostat is set the way that it needs to be, that emergency heat isn't left on by mistake. And this is another benefit that we offer to our customers.
It's a great customer service program, is having that inspection process being done by the city as an independent verification of the contractor's work.
And we work with great contractors. We really are fortunate that we have such a great group, and they serve the customers well also.
Good. So just a couple more questions before we end their program. One of them that I just find really neat, which is our street lights program. And you think, well, you take these things for granted, these lights all over the place, but it is kind of neat. Tell me a little bit about that, and how can citizens report when the street lights out?
Yeah, we do rely on all mechanisms of help for reporting street lights. While we'll look and we'll use the volunteer and police services, VIPs. We also appreciate phone calls and reports from customers, email works as well, of streetlights that are not working. And we have approximately over 4,000 streetlights in the city, and that's a lot of area to cover. And on top of that, there's about 1,000 rental lights, and so it's a large undertaking to maintain those street lights, and we're in the process of using our mapping system, one of our mapping systems that I was mentioning earlier, and to have a tool available for our customers, and to be able to look at that map and identify, click on it, and say this light is not working. And so look for that here shortly. Our customers can look for that app shortly, and it'll be available on our website. So
they can just go to the website, they can click sort of that area and boom, identify where the street light is.
There'll be a web link on our website. It's not there yet. We're still testing the system, and so it's one that we're looking forward to having available for our customers as a way to provide that input to us, and then also we can provide that return response to the customer of if it's been repaired or not.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, if folks see a street light that's out at night or cycling coming on and off, or it's on during the day, they can contact our power operations department, and that's 942-7429.
And is it on Request Tracker on the city's
It
website?
is.
So, okay, they can also go to the city's website to Request Tracker.
That's
and report
right.
that too. Okay, so lots of various ways. I have another question. This is about the new substation that was built, Leslie and Riata. Is it currently in operation?
Yes, it is. So we call that substation Leslie Substation. It was constructed in 2018. Bonneville finished their work late in 2018, and we energized it in early 2019. It has 5 feeders out of it. It serves that South Richland area, and it'll also help serve the growth in that area. So we're fortunate to have that substation, not only for the growth, but then also the reliability that it provides to other substations around that. And that's an interesting project. We were talking about cost control early on. And that substation is a joint substation with the city of Richland and then also Benton Pewdy. Benton Pewdy has infrastructure in that substation as well. And so it's a way for both entities to be able to lower our overall costs, and that's what we always try to do with our Richland ratepayer money.
Yeah, that's one of the favorite things that I can brag about with our Tri-Cities utilities is that we do very well collaborating. And we do that a lot on the communication side because we have a lot of the same messages about electrical safety and power outages and the benefit of the hydroelectric dams. But in this case, both Benton PUD and the city were needing additional capacity in that area. And so it was a natural fit for us to come together and collaborate on this.
Good.
One fence, two substations,
Yeah.
two entities.
You talked about reliability, and we've talked a little bit about this before, but for citizens, how reliable is our utility?
I think it's. We showed a graph early
Right.
on where the outages are decreasing
Correct.
over time, and we're actually very fortunate to live in the Tri-Cities area. While we have a fair amount of wind does not generally cause us outages, and
Usually just squirrels, right?
squirrels can cause, and that's decreasing. It used to be about 100 squirrel outages a year, and I think it's down into the 80s, and so that's decreasing too. And so it's aging infrastructure is one of our nemesis right now, and that's part of the reason why we're doing the renewal and replacement programs on it. And so no tornadoes, of course, no hurricanes. It's generally aging infrastructure that gets us.
Yeah. And that tree trimming program is very beneficial as well.
Yeah.
And in fact, going back to, was it the winter of 2012 when we had that huge storm and took down all the trees in the shelter belt, we had a number of old trees, and even though we had, they weren't ours, a lot of them were in the neighborhoods as well, and even though we have a tree trimming program, something like that would be out of the normal for it to take down infrastructure like that. So our crews worked really hard to get everybody back in power, but for the most part, our tree trimming program really is a huge success for us.
And I wanted to talk a little bit more on the reliability of the system. When we do have an outage, and we will have outages, you can't build a system that's won't have an outage and build it reliable or build it economically at least. And so on average, customers can experience about one outage a year, maybe up to 60 minutes duration. And so the customer should always be prepared for an outage. Have your list of supplies ready to be able to tough that out. And an outage may take up to 4 hours, just depending on how complex it is. If we have to dig up cable, finding that and digging that up, coming in after hours, that can take some time. So. Usually it's less than an hour, but for some customers, some areas, it could be up to 4 hours.
Clint mentioned that the squirrels they're not really learning to stay out of our system.
I thought that was part of an education program.
Well, that's true. And, yeah, we're not educating the squirrels, unfortunately. They go by instinct. But we do put squirrel guards around our equipment, and that has really helped ramping that program up so that the squirrels can't get access to it. But being wildlife like they are, and they're kind of wily critters also, sometimes we just can't keep them out of our equipment.
They're smart. They'll figure a way to get into havoc.
Yeah.
Well, squirrels aside, where can citizens get, you've talked about phone numbers, you've talked about something, but where's the best place they can get information on their utility?
Yeah, on our website, and that's the City of Richland's website, and then go to the Energy Services link. I think it's there on your screen. And then the phone number you can call is we've given you Power Operations phone number. The general number for us is 942-7403. And if If you dial that and we need to get you over to power operations, we certainly can do that.
Good that. And
Local
then one
number?
final question. Oh, go ahead.
Local number with local people.
Local number
Yeah.
with local people. That's our new mantra. Local number with local people. One last question for you, Clint, which is, you just said it, local number for local people. What do you want our citizens to know about, their utility?
Well, number one, we care about them. We're here to support them when they need us, and all they need to do is reach out, talk to us if they have any questions or concern. But we're here to provide them safe, reliable, and cost-effective power.
Anything to add to that, Sandy?
Being a municipality, we really do try to be as transparent. And I don't want to overuse that term. Sometimes it sounds trite, but we really do. We are the citizens' government, and we are the citizens' electric utility. So we don't want to hide anything. We want to tell you what's going on and help you be excited about our electric utility the way that we are, because by your providing input to us and to City Council and our utility advisory group, we make better decisions.
And because you're not only the customers, but you're basically also the owners of the utilities. So yeah.
That's right.
Very good. Well, I guess that's all the time we have for this edition on Ask Richland. So I want to go ahead and thank my two guests who are here today, Clint Whitney and Sandy Edgman, for joining us on that. And thank you for asking the questions. And again, if you have any questions that you would like asked, the best place to start is either on where we had with the utilities, go to Richland Energy Services, or just pop us an email at askrichland@ci.richland.wa.us. Thanks for watching this edition of Ask Richland. I'm Michael Sharman, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Think about it. Almost every trip in Washington begins or ends on a city street. And as Washington's population and economy grows, so does the demand on the transportation network. City streets are more than just a road. Above ground, there are bike lanes, sidewalks, curbs, gutters, lighting, landscaping. But below are sewers, water, stormwater, electric, and cable utilities. And when a street is built over a waterway, it even incorporates fish passage into the design. Our transportation system is one of the most valuable assets we have. It's no small cost to ensure that it's well built and maintained for today and the future. But our city streets lack a sufficient revenue source. City transportation systems must compete with important priorities like police and fire protection, parks, and other programs and services. What about the gas taxes we pay at the pump? Well, most of that goes to the state to pay for highways. Cities receive only a small portion, and as the population has grown, your city's share hasn't kept up. It takes a while for a pothole to develop on a city street. However, it just doesn't make sense to defer maintenance. And while maintaining our streets may cost a lot, paying for reconstruction down the road costs a whole lot more. All this means that as cities grapple to fund priorities, we need to ensure our transportation systems are not neglected. We can't throw future generations under the bus. We all need to work together to make sure these important assets are well designed, constructed, and maintained.
You're watching CityView TV, your Richland community connection.